Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going out there? Welcome back here to a finally Friday. Made it out here to the weekend. Hope everyone's going to have a decent, good one. It is 12:25 p.m. California time, November 7th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here shows some movement up into Alaska, 2.6 and a 2.2. Looking at the last 24 hours of earthquake activity here on the globe, shows some larger movement overnight here. Well, actually, this morning, got some movement down here across the Gulf of California. Now, I know last night and yesterday we had a number of earthquakes here. And in fact, if we go back the last 7 days, there's been a couple more added to this list. So far, the largest, a 5.6 earthquake that struck down here this morning. That is south here of California into the Gulf of California, just off the Baja California coast. There is some migration northward here in the last hour in the red circles, but this area historically can see a lot of larger movement. I pulled up the historical model here, and it looks like it's happening here just along this fracture boundary. This one's a strike slip boundary. There's a couple different types of boundaries out here. Maybe a couple spreading seafloor center. But this one here is on a strike slip boundary, it looks like. And the models here show us that we can get some larger activity in the vicinity here of today's events. There's a 7.0 that struck back here in 1918, and a couple other larger ones up north along that strike slip boundary with a 7.0 back in 2012. So got not a whole lot of recent larger activity. I guess the most recent one's going to be a 2012 one for a 7.0, but I want to keep an eye on that. A little bit of movement can lead into something big, and we do have to watch for some migration up northward here. It normally tends to work its way up north. Let's see what we got here in Southern California. See if we got anything overnight in the 2.5 range. Really nothing to report above that 2.5 level. It's all microquake activity here. With a couple events here in the last hour. That's going to be these red circles here. Nothing big. Just watch for that migration potentially today, working its way up north. But also we'll keep an eye down south here. That's a little bit of a movement going on. There's a number of smaller aftershocks in there as well. Looks like 6 or 7 earthquakes in total. The earthquake 3D globe here is going to include the combination of the USGS, which you're showing on that map, but also the EMSC model that picks up on some of the smaller aftershock activity. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also some movement way up north there off the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. USGS not picking up on that. That's a 3.8 this morning. So we do have some shifting and adjusting going on out here across the west coast. Not a whole lot going on there through Washington for now. Looks like maybe one earthquake up here around Mount St. Helens this morning. But I don't see any major uptick going on. Same for Northern California up here. Got one little earthquake at the extreme southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, the megathrust area, for a 1.9. But I don't see anything big showing up yet. We do have a 2.1 here outside Vallejo in the last half hour. Looks like it's off of the Concord fault here. Maybe the Green Valley fault. It's kind of a wait and watch and see scenario out here. Look at Yellowstone. What's going on up here? Got a little swarm stirring back up again. Is any of that showing up on the Yellowstone seismograph stations? Let me see here. Oh, yeah. See, so this one's picking it up a little bit. I guess I'll leave that up there. Nothing big, but we better go double check this, see what it looks like on the recorded overview. So we'll go to the USGS Volcano site, take a peek here, see if anything's really ramping up out there at Yellowstone. Looks like it's around this area. So we'll check out the YML station. That's barely picking it up there. You can see them in the background. That may be, let me check this map here. That's barely picking it up as well. There's the, that's going to be the 5-pointer. That 5.7 there off the coast of the Baja California region this morning. 5.6, excuse me. That would match that time period there at Yellowstone National Park, since this is mountain time. That previous time there was my time. But that showed up quite nicely. But there is some earthquake activity showing up here. Very light earthquake activity. Let me see exactly where that's at here. It looks like it's in the northern end here, which should be... Is this picking it up? That's offline. Oh man, let me get rid of some of these stations out here. We don't need that many. YNR. I guess this one's a little bit closer to the area where the earthquake activity is occurring. See those very small spikes? Very small ones. There's a handful of them, but I'm kind of surprised here. They're actually reporting these, all of them. Normally something like that, they don't even bother. So they're reporting them, which is good. The smaller quakes as well, 0.2, 0.2. Nothing big going on, but man, that's nice to see. Is it underneath preliminary, or is this has been reviewed? So these are all being manually added here, or allowed onto the USGS map after review. So, all right, a little bit of earthquake activity up there at Yellowstone, but nothing big. Texas still got the oil fields rocking and rolling. Nothing new out there. This is just something that happens. It's, pretty crazy, but that's what happens out there. Quite a few ones through Oklahoma from yesterday as well, and today. The New Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet. Eastern portion of the country, quiet for now. Let's see what we got. A couple different areas of clustering going on here. Got this area along the Tonga Trench still popping off some 4s. Last night, well, just after midnight, we had a 5.3 here as well. It's been pretty active here in the last week with a pretty good amount of uptick going on there, whether you want to call it aftershock activity or just increasing pressure in the region. Got the largest quake here, going to be that 6-pointer. I believe it's going to be that 6.1 that stirred up there. I've actually seen a number of 6-pointers, and that's just in the last week alone. So it comes and goes in little big swarms, I should say, out here. Nothing new to report as far as any major quake activity goes. A lot of older movement around Japan, but I do see a couple newer ones. In fact, look at this one right here, 3.1. Looks like that's maybe in the section E of the Nankai Trough. We better go double check that because that would be up around this area. Let's go. We'll get to space weather here in a little bit. Japan Meteorological Agency. I just want to see where that 3.1 is. That is, that's kind of back there. A, B, C, D. Yeah, that looks like it's close to section E out here. There's a couple different segments of the Nankai Trough. There's, here they are right here. Simple map, A, B, C, D, and E. And that earthquake looks like it's, well, where'd it go? Let's go back here to the Japan. Yeah, it's around section E right here, inland a little bit. 40 kilometers deep in there. This follows an earthquake that struck over here on section A. There was actually a couple over here on section A that popped within the last week, 4.9 and a 4.5. This area, the subduction zone, is could be getting geared up to see a big earthquake. It's been extended amount of time since the last big one here, and we'll see it happen sooner rather than later because section E did not rupture out here during the last event. So that tells me right there that it could start over here and then potentially just go with a full unzip of that subduction zone there, south coast of Japan, that's capable of producing up to a 9.1 earthquake. So we do have that happening fairly recent, maybe a newer quake there into the Izu Trench. By the way, red rings indicating some older movement. In fact, this looks like this should be right there. Try to keep the last 24 hours here on the map. Clustering going on here around the Philippines southward. Nothing big to report, just the typical daily events there of the 2 3s and maybe a couple 4s in there as well. Back across New Zealand, some 3s from last night, getting a swarm of deep earthquake activity once again here across the Tonga Trench. That's been really ramping up, and it's been skipping over this area here. Bring this model back here. Bunch of deep activity, somewhat missing and jumping over this area around Port Moresby back across this region to you got the Solomon Islands and the Port Vila area, Vanuatu region, lacking any filling in here. And the general stress model plate movement of this area, here's the Tonga Trench where the deep activity is occurring. The general plate stress here points towards the northwest, so we should see that amplification of strain along that plate boundary resulting in earthquake activity in this region, but it's just not showing any elevated earthquake activity, so we do have to watch this region as the deeper activity is happening back here, but it's skipping over this region, clustering in this area, but it should fill in. Definitely it won't stay quiet for long like that. The rest of the area here, Middle America Trench, looks like some older movement from yesterday. The Peru Chile Trench, the same. Atlantic Ocean, a couple earthquakes down here across the, looks like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Couple fours. Even a 4.1 out there around the that triple point boundary in the Atlantic. Let's see if Hawaii has had its eruption yet there at Kilauea Volcano. I know last night we were looking at some glowing down there in the crater. This update was put out a couple days ago, so no new update. Give a quick glance here at the webcam imagery up at the summit region. See what we got today. They've had a couple different overspills, is what they call them, overflows. The thing about that slowly releasing is that they could potentially solidify and create a blockage there. Let me see what the deformation data looks like. Yeah, we're still going up. No eruption as of yet, but we are getting awfully close. That's if something doesn't change here with the typical rinse and repeat cycle there at Kilauea Volcano. But if you get that, that slow leakage, it can definitely create some type of blockage. And from there, well, we'd have to see what would happen. But right now, it looks like we're still on tap here to see an eruption at any given time. It could happen right now. It could happen today. Space weather activity, that's another thing, right? Remember when I was doing the update last night? I was talking about how the high-speed solar wind stream was way up there. In fact, I'll show you here on the data. We were looking at the speed of the solar wind stream up around 800 or so. In fact, I think it was 838 being the highest. Super fast. Something like that should really stir up the auroras. But notice, and I was just about right here, we stayed closed all night. That BTBZ component up here on the top of the chart was well north. See that zero line there? You can see a little bit better on this model. We'll go to the official site. Way above there all night, suppressing any and all roars. And, that it never came to play last night. Never did. But I think if you look at go back to the plasma data, we should have seen a really good spike of plasma density that we were expecting. The storm prediction, or the Space Weather Prediction Center was forecasting a good sized plasma cloud that was going to hit us. It missed us because I don't see any elevated density spikes here. Just a little bitty one, but there's 2 run times. That could be an error, but it never showed up here. High-speed solar wind stream, yes, but that was suppressed there with the BTBZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field. No density. So here we are. No auroras. Pretty simple. We would need to open like this, way south of this. See that zero line right here? When it's open like that, those auroras stirred up. Not last night, but the night before anything ever came in. We started to see a little bit of uptick, but had this been open like this, when we got that high-speed solar wind stream, we'd be talking about pretty nice solar storm, nice auroras. But that did not play out very well. So that is unfortunate for the aurora lovers, the aurora watchers. This is the next couple nights. Chances, maybe, of seeing some unsettled conditions there. But like I say, that solar wind speed should go down. And the auroras probably not going to happen. Missed a pretty good shot there, but that's all right. Flaring activity is the other one. That is still continuing here with a decent chance of some X-flare activity. Stand by. It is Friday. It is a beautiful Friday out here in Northern California. Sunny. Going to dry out here for a couple days and we'll get some more rain. Yeah, let's get back to the flaring activity. Look at this, sizzling like crazy out here on the board. That still tells me that these sunspots are unstable. Instability is high. X-flare activity happens when it looks like this. So we could see an X-flare pop again at any time from a number of these sunspots. I'm going to go to the most recent one here. I know SolarHam does a good job of keeping everything up to date, but this is the most recent, very updated one from the Stanford University here that my mod Timothy passed along. Appreciate it. Timothy is a man with some knowledge and quite a few useful links out there. The polarities of this look pretty crazy, overlapping one another here. Two up north, and then you got the ones on the bottom here. I believe these are positive, and then negative here. That is still super complex. That's very possible we could see some further X-flare activity from that. You know, I'm still thinking maybe a 35-45% chance of seeing an X-flare. And that is pretty much directly lined up with Earth. A little off-center north. You know, you would want to be in this position right here, center disk, for a direct shot at Earth. But most of the time, you know, these full halo CMEs that pop off, when they do, will hit Earth regardless. If it's a little north, a little south, east, or west. So we got that one up north here. Let's see, that's pretty close. This one back here is still fairly complex. This one's got a little bit of complexity as well. But I think our main chance of getting some more X-flare activity is coming off of this one. So we'll continue to watch that for some X-flare activity. M-flare activity, of course, is always going to be elevated. 80% chance there. The moon, 94% illumination. Beautiful moon tonight. May get out there and take some crater shots. We'll see. Speed's dying down. Of course, the high-speed solar wind stream is dropping. Coronal hole activity has scooted along. I don't see anything else coming behind it as far as coronal hole activity goes. Far side of the sun. Let's see what we got here. Is this recent? It's from yesterday, so really not all that great. This is going to be the far side. This is the Earth-facing side of the sun. Notice the sunspots there that have been producing the X-flare activity. Back on the far side is our quiet side. So after these are gone, I really don't see a whole lot out here. We're going to enter into some more quietness of solar activity, but for now, we do have that decent X-flare potential coming up here for the remainder of the time while those are still facing the planet. Nothing headed towards the planet in terms of asteroid activity. Things look pretty quiet here across the board. Well, all of these are fairly newly discovered except for these bottom two, but everything's millions of miles away. Storm Prediction Center for severe weather. Got a little slight risk here across this area of the country. 5% chance there for some tornado activity. That includes Nashville, Tennessee, and a little 2% area surrounding that. A little bit of wind threat in there as well. Maybe a little bit of hail in that 5% zone. Looking down here, down the road for the weather forecast. I know we got some colder air dipping down here across the eastern portion of the country. That look at that massive cool pull of air coming down from Canada. West Coast, you know, this is the flip-flop here. It's always looking like this. If this was back over here across the western coast, then you would see high pressure build up here. It's just the way the pressures behave out here. So of course ridging is gonna build out here across the west coast with this in play. We got about 5 to 6 days of some drier weather, warmer weather, before our next system comes in, and it's leaning more towards the wetter side once again. And that includes all of the West Coast. Look at Southern California, going to get a decent cut-off low pressure system there as well. Not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday after that. Next Wednesday and Thursday, it looks like the brunt of the moisture is going to stay there in California. Now, this is still developing. Depending on how much moisture it taps into, could be a little bit wetter than what it's showing. And then way down the road here towards the end of November, it shows a tropical system here, but you know that's at the very last run, and that more than likely won't play out like that. The GFS model here, or the ECMWF model, excuse me. Let's see what these guys are showing here for Wednesday coming up. Let's see, there's some impressive rainfall amounts there for Northern California. And this one shows Southern California getting in on it as well. The GFS model, not so much, but that ECMWF model is a little bit more reliable, depending on who you ask here. But most of the forecasters out here always look at the ECMWF model, and that's what most of the weather apps use as well, as far as forecasting down the road what the weather may be like in your area in the forecast on that app. So it looks good. I think we'll get some decent rain. Precipitation total accumulation rates here. This goes to the 22nd. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Southern California getting included as well. Couple inches of rain there across the West Coast, more in the typical zones, but that looks like it's what it's supposed to do here in November. November, December, January, February, and March is our rainy season, so that's what we want. That's good. Keep them coming. Keep the train of storms coming, please. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything major going on here? I don't see anything major for now, folks. Just be on guard. Stay prepared. Be prepared. Should always be prepared out here, right? No matter where you're at. Natural hazards and disasters are a real thing. Look at this earthquake here, 1.2 on the Garlock fault shear zone. Very close there to the interchange with the plate boundary. You know, this is a major shear zone across a major plate boundary, and it can get some big earthquakes as well. Kind of acts as a spring in a way. When you got one portion of the plate moving northwest, and this area moving kind of towards the southeast, kind of where it locks up right there. Pretty crazy. But anyway, have a good one. We'll see you guys out here later for the Friday night update. Take care and have a good one.